All right. Welcome to the Somewhat Creative Show, the podcast where we explore the ideas, tools, and people shaping the creative world. I'm Rocky Tilney, here with my shape-shifting co-host, Clark Miller.
Shapeshift. I gotta shapeshift
Today
it
on
up.
the show.
For you of you listening to the show and not seeing, I completely shapeshifted.
Yeah, he turned into one of those pill bugs that kind of roll up into themselves. Today on
Very
the show,
interesting. I got
freelance
fun
versus
facts about
full-time.
those.
You're going to interrupt my intro this whole
I'm
time?
sorry.
No, I'm
Go for
okay,
it.
okay, here we go. Today on the show, freelance versus full-time, Adobe's big bet on AI, and who owns all of the AI content that's being produced today? It's a good question. And later in the show, we're joined by Caitlin Lang, a brand strategist and web designer helping women entrepreneurs build confident premium brands through her signature 3-day design sprints. Let's go.
Do it. How are you, Rocky?
I am good. Clark, how are you today?
Oh, tired. I feel like it's been a long week, but I think I say that every show, so I don't know
I
what
think you
my
do.
excuse
I
is.
think you do. We should just bake that into our pre-roll.
We should. Yeah.
I'm
To be part of it.
All right. So there's a lot going on in the industry these days.
Yeah.
One thing that keeps popping up on my radar, probably for the last 6 months, and I've mentioned it in previous shows, is that there are reports showing that full-time creative roles are sort of shrinking in the industry. And this is a cross-section with every industry, not just creative agencies, but any organization that has a creative department. The full-time roles are shrinking and contract roles are increasing. And you sounds like you probably have some insight into this as well. You've experienced this, right?
No, I mean, I just hired a contractor for a video editing position, and it definitely could be. I think from my experience, it seems like companies have just become a little more risk averse to hiring the wrong person, and they like this idea of it being on contract, a little easier to just kind of end the contract and not renew with people, and so and that's definitely somewhat the motivation for us to hire on contract right now is thinking 6 months from now, are we still going to need the same resources that we're trying to hire for now?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
but it's
right.
interesting that you're seeing these trends, and I'm interested to see what the broader kind of employment numbers are.
Yeah, and it's interesting. My personal experience too with Upspire Labs being an agency. Obviously, we are contracted with companies all the time to support their marketing and creative needs, and uh, I'm sometimes surprised that even some larger companies don't have in-house creative, and they
Hmm.
pretty much outsource it to companies like ours that do that. That are kind of a partner and do that for them. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be more of a trend. I mean, it's great for agencies, small creative agencies that have the flexibility to support organizations like that. Uh, but if you're an individual creative, like how hard is that going to be to get sort of a foothold into organizations for consistent work? Or are you always going to be contracting and looking for a new,
Yeah.
new job or trying to fill that pipeline?
Well, and I also kind of feel like the benefits of it have traditionally been you could contract with a few different companies, you could be doing a few different, you could have your eggs spread across some baskets.
Hmm.
But so many of these roles you see now, I feel like are they want a full time employee, they want a full time contract, and so it's hard to, from my perspective, it would be hard to take on a full time kind of contract position somewhere. So it could end in a few months or whenever the contract ends, and you're not like I had a art director years ago who was a
Hmm.
contract employee for Google, and I know that they're notorious for this because they like to be able to size down and size up their workforce as needed.
Yeah.
Um, and they worked for me in between times when they would be working at Google, and they'd sometimes do a little crossover and stuff, but it was a lot of work. But But the reason they did that was because a lot of times the laws are such that you can only have a contractor for a certain amount of time if it's a
Right.
independent contractor, if it's not like an agency or something. But in a lot of situations, they have to have those contracts. They can't just renew every 6 months and go on like that for six
Mhm.
years. They
Mhm.
have to have like some end to it. So that art director I had, he would stop working there for 6 months and go and work for a different company or work in news and media, and then go back to that when their contract could be renewed again. So from a legal standpoint, there's some
Mm.
interesting kind of components to that as well.
Yeah, it used to be like this sort of temp to hire situation. I don't know if that's still
Hmm.
the case. And I think this probably crosses outside of creative as well. Um, Tech companies hiring, you know, more administrative type roles, stuff that could be done remote. They probably maybe don't feel like they need to pull in a full-time employee for that, or just hire them through a agency as a contractor too,
Hmm.
where they don't have to pay benefits and things like that. But there are some interesting statistics. I was doing some research this morning on this, and um, in 2023, there were 64 million Americans freelancing, which is essentially 38% of the U.S. workforce,
I was
and
gonna
that's like
say
that's an increase from 4 million from the year prior,
yeah,
2022.
that's a big chunk.
So that's wild. And the projection for 2028 is over 90 million freelancers. So what does this mean for industries that need to support individuals that are not working for a large company? So you don't have your 401k baked in, you don't have health
Yeah.
insurance baked in. So I wonder if this is going to spawn other industries, adjacent industries to this freelance workforce that,
Hmm.
maybe you'll be able to get, other benefits outside of working for a larger organization. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
yeah. We definitely need something to supplement because I mean even working full time, it's like sometimes the 401k plans, they're not what they used to be. They were never meant to be your retirement plan. Like they were initially they were supplemental. Yeah, it was like an employer backed kind of savings plan,
Hmm.
and then they gained in popularity and all the employers said, "Hey, we could just do this instead of offering pensions." And people
Right.
won't know the difference, but there's a big difference. Especially because your 401k, as my folks learned in the 2008, recession
Yeah.
crash,
Yeah.
your 401k can go down to half of what it was very quickly.
Right. Right. And if you're relying
That's
on that, or if you're close to retirement age and you need to start pulling out,
yeah.
that could be
So
kind of
this
scary.
contract, I mean, these contract gig life has always, I think we've always thought of it as a bit more of a 20 somethings, maybe into your 30s, and then you eventually settle into a full time position somewhere for the security and the benefits and
Right.
the 401ks and all that. But now it just seems like it's becoming more the norm throughout your career to not always
Yeah.
have that
Right.
long term position. And a lot of
Well,
companies don't even want to hire people that have had long term positions at places over 5 years. That's once upon a time that showed like devotion to your employer and
yeah.
all this. And now it seems like that's almost a detriment that people are like, employers are thinking, why would you never try to move somewhere else? Why would you stay
Yeah.
at a place for so long? So it's an interesting change in our career ladder
It's
process.
unusual for sure to stay
Hmm.
at a place very long. They are seeing too that the younger generations, particularly with Gen Z and millennials, they're choosing freelancing for the
Hmm.
flexibility and control it offers. Um, One statistic says in 2023, 52% of Gen Z professionals and 44% of millennials were freelanced. So it might be a life balance choice issue too. And I loved being independent for pretty much, 90% of my career
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
that flexibility, having, starting this with young kids at home and being able to walk them to school and pick them up from school, and
for
just
sure.
having that flexibility was super, super important to me at that time. So, and I think as, the younger generation's pushing a lot of those big life changes off a little bit too, and they're having kids later and
Mm.
stuff like that. So we're seeing like definitely a workforce demographics change I think that's interesting, and like I said, I think it's beyond the creative fields, but the creative
Y
fields do lend themselves very well to working remotely and picking up, gigs like that.
yeah, every single person on my design team is in a separate city. You know, one person's in New York, one person's working from Mallorca, one
Mm,
person's in LA. The contractor I just hired is in LA, so it's kinda nice having somebody on Pacific time zone.
yeah,
So, it's interesting. Definitely creative fields lend themselves to the, you know, any work from anywhere kinda mentality.
right, right.
But do we lose
So,
the only thing I do worry about is, like, are we losing some of the benefits of, like, being in the room and being able to toss ideas around in person? But
yes.
I don't know. We
Both
are,
both things could be true. Yes, I think there are a lot of benefits, especially for if you're Gen Z. There are benefits to being in office and having that collaboration and building relationships with people. And as we know, you know, it's very evident in the political climate that people are being a little bit they're being more isolated, selectively being
mhm,
isolated. They're not doing things in person. Um, our generation we'd go out every Friday, Saturday night. We'd go to restaurants, we'd go to bars, we'd hang out with friends and stuff, and that seems to be really retracting with this generation. And we're
for sure.
we're more online, we're more siloed.
Yeah, my in-person coworkers were all the people I hung out with in my
Yeah,
20s, that was pretty
for
much
sure.
my social circle was
Same here. Yeah.
whoever it was at my job. We would just go out after work and go do stuff, so,
So it's almost
yeah,
like you have to
definitely.
force these things to happen now, through tools,
Yeah,
apps, getting people together, but you all really have to force the in person, as much as possible.
yeah,
If it's an organization, maybe you do a quarterly event or you bring everyone together, or a yearly event if everyone's
for sure.
very disparate.
The funny thing that brings up is there's a great documentary series, like a not a documentary, but it's like a dramatized series that's
Mhm.
based on reporting and real life of, the founder of Bumble
Oh,
and her
okay. Yeah.
experiences at Tinder.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
really good documentary. It actually was spurred from, reporting by a place I used to work called Epic Digital and, or Epic Magazine, I guess, is the, like, kinda true life story version of them, but
Yeah.
anyway, they did a great job. Actually, that's not true. I take all that back. That was a different story. The Bumble I take all of that back. That was a totally different one. I'm thinking of something else. It doesn't matter. It's a really good show, really good, fake kinda documentary of this
Docuseries.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, it was an interesting because I never realized that Bumble actually maybe this happened after I was already off the dating apps and married and,
Mhm.
making babies, but the, they started a offshoot of it that was for friends, like Bumble for Friends, and so you would just
Yeah.
go on there to make friends, and I guess all of the dating
I think
apps
it's
kind of
BFF.
have
Yeah.
tried to do that. Yeah, I had no idea. So, like, and it makes me think, like, wow, are people using those? I haven't looked at the statistics on those, but, with
Well, the
our
thing Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I didn't think about that from, because I've read a lot of articles about loneliness being an epidemic in the United States, especially. And so, if we do see a workforce that's skewing more freelance, and those numbers I repeated earlier are pretty staggering, if there's going to be a high percentage of our population that's freelance, where are the social interactions and the collaborations and things like that? Like, think about all the great things like America's done in the last 100 years or so after industrial revolution. Those are all things that like were people working together, collaborating together in person. I'm wondering if
yeah,
that could be emulated elsewhere. Like, think about the stuff NASA did in the 60s and 70s with the Apollo mission. Like, can that happen remotely today? Like, certain
I don't know.
aspects, maybe, but
I
obviously
don't
not
know.
your testing and
I mean, the
manufacturing
like
and
SpaceX's
R&D and D and
track
stuff.
record for the last year has not shown a proclivity for that to, you know, really jumpstart their industry because like they've had a lot of failed launches and,
Sure.
have
But
not
that's the name of
progressed
the
as
game
quickly
for
as.
aerospace too, though, is
Yeah,
failure.
yeah. It's definitely, but they had high hopes for this year of like launching so many starships, and I think there was supposed to be like 100 Starship launches and they've had like 5 or something. It's just, you know, definitely I wonder how much of the in-person thing, but maybe a lot of people are in person there. I don't know. Collaboration is hard. That's a hard one. We're gonna have to figure. Maybe we're just at the end. Today, I'm a pessimist, and I think we're just at the end of human civilization. This is it. We're done. AI and work from home and virtual reality stuff, and like it's all just we're done as a species. Call
We've
it quits,
peaked?
everybody.
You think we've peaked?
I think we'll look back on what's that line from the Matrix when Neo is like being interrogated and the agent Smith is saying that we modeled this world after the peak of human civilization in the late 90s.
Mm,
I think we'll look back on it and go, yep, late 90s, that was it. That was peak of human
yep,
civilization.
yeah.
We're done after that.
Alright, here's another interesting story. So, Adobe's betting big on AI. We know that already. We see it sort of popping up and being like, quietly integrated into the tools and the apps that we
Hmm.
use all the time, and, you know, I don't use a lot of the Adobe, AI tools except for, like, generative fill, when I need to expand an image beyond what I have. It's great for that. I've done a little bit of photo manipulation with the stuff built into Photoshop, um, and everything. They put it into other apps too, like InDesign, which to me is, like, a little weird. Like, I don't need like, InDesign's for publishing a
I
document. I
know.
haven't found a
It is
great
odd.
use case for it there, but they're
Hmm.
trying to pop it in everywhere, but what it shows me because it's going across their whole product ecosystem in their Creative Cloud, is that they're, going heavy and betting heavy into that. So beyond Firefly, which was their Gen AI tool, now that's being integrated in. And you see these little things like, "You wanna generate this thing?" in the app, and you go, "Yeah," and they're like, "That's 1 credit." I'm like, "Well, how many credits do I have? Like, wait, where do I
I
get
know. I have
credits?"
no
And like,
idea. I've never hit a credit limit, and I hope I never do. But yeah, I have no idea how many credits I have. I think you have to go on to like the
yeah,
Gemini or not Gemini, but the Firefly app page or something, which I
yeah,
never go to because they're from their image generator has always felt like a little bit of a generation behind
yeah,
most of the
yeah,
newer ones. It always
right,
felt like from scratch, not great. Even in
right,
Photoshop, which is the most interesting thing now, is they've got Google Nano Banana popping up in their latest
yeah,
beta for Photoshop.
right.
So you can choose Firefly, or you can say no, don't use Firefly because it sucks. Go use Nano Banana for this like generative fill or changing this photo. So that to me, I was surprised that they did that because of their push for their own, like Adobe specific AI tools. I've been really kind of like I don't know if it's a reaction to Figma. I don't know if you've seen Figma now has like
Yeah, I
four.
have.
I think they have 4 different image generators baked in that you can select from, which is and I don't know where those. I don't know if those take credits. I haven't like hit any
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of
afraid to use
walls
them
with
because I
those.
don't wanna use them and then and then my invoice at the end of the month saying, "Oh, you have an AI agent seat you're paying for now."
I
Because
got
that's usually what happens with
I gotta
Figma is
send
you
an
wind up paying
email.
for a seat.
Yeah, I gotta talk to the IT people because I might be running up a bill and not know it because I've been using it like crazy because it gives you access to like some good image generators. That Figma
Haven't
one
used it yet.
has it's got
Yeah.
ChatGPT built in. It has 2 different GPT
Who pays
models. It
for
has a
that?
mini.
I mean, is it a licensing thing? Is Figma paying for ChatGPT via the license that the
I don't know.
customer is paying for? Or are you gonna, rack up a
These are
bill at the
these
end
are
of the month?
questions that like I should have done some
Someone's
research and
gotta
come to
pay
you with
for
some
the
of these
compute
these
on
answers.
those things.
I know somebody's got to be paying for it,
Well,
but
this is
I
the
didn't.
interesting thing. We brought this up before too. Like, at the end of the day, the $20 a month I'm paying for ChatGPT doesn't feel like enough to support them. So they are obviously have revenue coming from other sources,
Yeah.
for this. But at the end of the day, once all this investment in infrastructure is done and the data centers are built, where where is their real money making opportunity? Because I don't think it's the one
Well,
to
it's
one
they've
consumer.
they've in calls with investors and stuff reportedly by reported on theinformation.com. uh Supposedly there's still talk internally of them eventually getting more of an ad tier,
Hmm.
and having more advertising. They've
Yeah,
already done a bit of
yeah,
it with like search results. Like they will like push certain products. If you search for a product on using ChatGPT, it'll push certain ones that are somewhat sponsored, I think.
mhm,
They've also have like some of these like daily emails that will go out, that you can request. It's like an email you want because it gives you like, give me all the updates on the creative industry every day, and
right,
within those there's talk. I don't know if they've already started doing it. I don't have any of those, but there's talk of like baking in some advertising layers within there.
mhm,
So I think, as with all of these models, online models, for revenue, it's you either crank up the subscription payments, you go from 20 to 40 to $50, or you bake in some more advertising and get some revenue that way. So I think
right,
eventually that's where they'll go, because they seem like a pure, let's get every single, you know, person using this that we can, rather than like, let's go higher price and get fewer
no,
people, but
right,
like more money
they're trying to
from
get
each
traction,
individual.
yeah,
So I think eventually it'll be an advertising play for sure. I
mhm,
don't, the Adobe one is an interesting one because it's like, I haven't seen our Creative Cloud memberships become more expensive. I don't like, we're talking about the credits. I use the generative fill in Photoshop every single day, multiple
yeah,
times per day. I've never hit my credit limit. I never have a, you know, unless, like you said, maybe I just don't notice that I'm getting charged more than,
yeah,
I don't know. Who
I
knows?
don't know. It is, yeah, it's interesting to see, but, I just lo this is like a whole cold war in the AI world right now, and we're
Mhm.
seeing all this investment into infrastructure and these workflows being built out, and you would think the incumbents would have the upper hand here, right? But there's so many new kids on the block. Figma is adding so many more tools to their workflow. There's other web-based, platforms coming out now. Obviously, Canva, and you have Gamma
Yeah.
now, which is an AI-based version. So yeah, we'll see because, sometimes I'm not in Adobe that often, and then a couple weeks will go by and I go, "Oh yeah, I should,
Yep.
probably see if
Mhm.
there's a new Adobe
I
update."
know,
I
I
haven't used it in a couple weeks, and then it's like the next week I'm using it every single day,
yeah,
but you're still paying
that's how it
for
goes.
it, obviously.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, I think that the most interesting question of all this is, once you create with whatever tool you create it with, who actually owns that piece of design,
Mm,
that piece of art?
right. Yeah.
This has been the talk for the last couple of years of like copyright, and a lot of it stems from what the models are being trained on, of
Right.
course, and that's kind of been the big, you know, discussion in terms of like, especially with Sora, the latest Sora release, and Sam Altman basically saying that companies will have to opt out of it if they don't want their images being used by the data, by the model, um, which is completely against the entire idea of copyright in the first place. But
Yeah.
the interesting question now too is like, once you've created something with Sora or any Firefly, anything, who actually owns that piece of art? The courts have said, not, there's like recent ones, but the ones that I'm aware of, they've said that nobody can really own something that's fully
Right.
AI generated.
Right.
But as soon as you take it in, like if you take an image and you take it into Photoshop and you tweak one thing, it then
Yeah.
becomes that person's art. But
Mm.
how much of it you need to touch, I don't know. Like it's still a
Well,
very gray area.
it's also interesting too because we've talked about derivative works before, and if
Hmm.
and if AI is essentially any Gen AI is going to be derivative works from humans at
Hmm.
some point. That's what its data set is trained on. So when you say pure AI generation, I don't know how that works without any type of prompt. But if you're just prompting and you get something at the end, then that I would say is probably pure AI generation. If you have a significant amount of human input, then I would think that that would give you a little bit more, um, you know, more support for claiming that you could own that piece of art, or that's
Yeah.
you're able to copyright that.
Yeah, I
piece of art,
saw.
but I don't think the prompt is considered into the human input.
I
I
know,
think
it's like,
I think
is
it's
prompting an
separate.
art form? I've definitely there's an art form to it. I definitely think that there are people out there that are really getting good at prompting and can get what they want faster than other people, and, like, so, it's definitely an art form. I think the most interesting take I heard on it recently was, some viral Instagram video from I think he's a famous book author.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was saying that, within his books, they're like sci-fi books, and there's illustrations and of, like, fictitious creatures and stuff, right? He was saying, he contacted the illustrator, he worked with him, he gave him the ideas for these creatures out of his
Mhm.
imagination. The illustrator took those and concepted the shapes and creatures and everything, and the author had the final say over what it looked like and if it was approved or not, and made changes, asked the illustrator to make changes, obviously. But his take was he would never put his name on those illustrations. Like, those aren't his
Mm,
illustrations. Those still were
right,
the illustrator's
right.
illustrations, the person that
Yeah,
actually drew them. And he's an art director. You could definitely say that. He believes
yeah,
that people prompting AI to create things, you could call yourself an art director, but you can't call yourself an artist. You're not an
right.
artist. The AI is the artist. You're just art
I like
directing.
that. Yeah, I like that
But
distinction.
here's the flip side of that, is because the idea is like, well, that's then that it's not your art. Like, that's, I think, the kind of the moral of the story is, like, it's still that
Mhm.
illustrator's art. With the AI tool, it's like, is it also somewhat like you're the director of a film? Like, because nobody says Quentin Tarantino movies aren't Quentin Tarantino's movies, but
Yeah,
he didn't
yeah.
act in them. He wrote some.
He's
I
not
mean, when you're
right,
writing them, I
yeah.
guess. But some of these
Producer,
movies,
writer, there's different
yeah, it's
roles. Yeah, there's
these are
different roles,
different
like, in any
roles to
creative
make this.
pursuit.
But then it is his movie. It's other people's movie too, but it's like nobody says, well, that's not Quentin Tarantino's movie. He didn't act in it. He wasn't the artist that created, that brought that character to life or whatever. He's not the
Right.
illustrator of that. He didn't edit it. Sometimes he does. I don't know. I don't Quentin Tarantino's maybe a bad example because he's very involved in his movies, but take like a director that just comes in, does the direction, and then leaves. It's like they still get their name up at the top of the bill, and it's like a movie by them. I don't know. Is that
I
what AI, like,
love
there's two schools of
yeah.
thought, I guess.
I love conversations that lead us down the path of, is it a philosophical question or a legal? And I think in this case, it's probably both. But on that, let's bring in our guest. All right, joining us today is someone who knows how to turn bold ideas into beautiful, high converting brands.
She's a brand strategist and web designer who helps women coaches and solopreneurs attract dream clients through her signature 3-day design sprints.
Her work is all about confidence, clarity, and helping women build the businesses and life they really want.
Please welcome Caitlin Lang to the Somewhat Creative Show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for
Applause,
having me.
applause, applause, applause,
Yay,
applause.
thank you.
That's where we need like a studio
We didn't
audience.
stumble over our intro
Well
either.
done.
We did a great job. Well,
Oh, we
Caitlin,
did a
I
great
appreciate you having a name that's very easy to pronounce for my
yeah.
my Oklahoma inherited speech issues.
That's funny because when I was growing up, there were no Caitlins. All the Caitlins started being born when I was in my early 20s. So this is a new phenomenon for me that just in the last 20 years or so that I that people know my
Baby
name.
names, man. There's like
That's
there's a
funny.
whole world of like the trends of baby names.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my kids, like, there were so many Caitlins at their school when they were little.
Yeah. That's funny. How
So
old are your kids?
came later.
That's funny.
23,
Okay.
21, and 16.
That bears out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of childhoods, Caitlin, what led you down the pathway? We always like to kind of get like a sense of how people kind of got started in creative worlds, because as Rocky and I have always talked about and learned from people, like, it's never a straight line. It always seems like there's a pathway that was unexpected or an unexpected turn. And I'm just wondering, how'd you get into this?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I was always creatively inclined. I drew a lot as a kid. Although I just was talking about this with someone. I had the mother of my best friend made fun of my drawings at some point in my adolescence. And
Mm.
so
Mm,
I stopped drawing entirely, probably in middle school. and but
Oh,
then
wow.
started doing photography. And so did a lot of photography through high school, did a lot of photography in college. And when I graduated college in 99, did not know I had an art history degree, did not want to go into museums, didn't know what I wanted to do. And someone just said the term graphic design to me. I didn't even know what that was. I moved to the
Mhm.
Bay Area and just took some classes with the UC Berkeley extension program and, in Photoshop and Quark Express back in the day,
Sure.
and
Good
an
stuff.
intro to graphic design class, and got my first job with a photography portfolio and was really lucky that someone,
Hmm.
Marnie Alaba, took a chance on me with a
There
photography
you go.
portfolio. I did really, I would say, graphic is in terms of um, lots of clean lines and abstract photography. So I think she could see
Mm.
something in my photography that
Mm,
made sense for design. And I started out in print, and this was back in the days of offset. So I learned offset
mhm,
printing and worked at a print house, or like a print, what do we call it ourselves? Print management studio, I guess is what we were called back then.
Okay.
Mainly
mhm,
doing production, some design, ended up at a design studio with a completely crazy boss. And it was during the dot-com craziness, and we were working insane hours for no money. And so I
Mhm.
left that job 25 years ago just with the intention of resting, and ended
Mhm.
up
mhm.
just getting work because I was cheap. And no, and
Yeah.
all the dot
Yeah.
coms were closing and people were going independent,
Yeah,
I guess. I don't even know how it happened, but I just started getting work and I just stumbled into entrepreneurialism. It's so
that's
interesting to see all these
great.
young people now embarking into their careers and businesses with real intention.
Mhm.
I just was, am I allowed to swear here?
Fell
Fucking around.
fell into it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you
stumbled into
definitely
mine
can.
as
Did you too?
well, was
I know
not
your pathway seems like a combination of mine and Rocky's.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's kind of
it
like
really
I had the
does.
photography thing, and then once you stumbled out of that, like into your own kind of business, that's much more the Rocky route. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
stuck
side
around with
hustle.
the low pay for way longer than both
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I started with the side hustle as well, and it was like I was already doing sort of creative services marketing, but then I was actually getting clients on the side because I had a website,
Mhm.
and nobody had a website
Yeah.
in, like, '99
Yeah.
or whatever, '98,
Yeah.
and I was getting people were just coming to the website because there were, like, 5 graphic designers
Yeah.
in the Bay Area that had websites
Yeah.
probably at that time.
I probably didn't have one yet.
Now, it's different.
Yeah, I forget when
Yeah.
I did my first website. I My dad likes to tease me. I graduated from college in '99 saying I wanted a job that didn't require working on a computer. That's
Mhm.
where my head was at in
Oops.
1999,
Yeah.
and then quickly
Whoops.
realized
Yeah.
that was impossible, and then I did get into,
Yeah.
we got really into Flash animation and all that stuff that was happening way back then.
Yeah.
Flash. Oh
Yeah.
my.
God, the hours that I spent learning Flash, only for it to all be
All
swept away.
keyframes. Those keyframes.
The keyframes.
You know what? I will say Flash is super helpful now that I'm doing more motion graphic
Mhm.
stuff. That
After Effects.
education and with
Yeah,
keyframing and with just like getting to know a timeline and
totally.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that did actually help propel, it gave me a little jump start into that realm.
Yeah.
But Kaylin, that's interesting that you see when you said you didn't want to go into museums, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was an option. Could I go back and become like a museum curator? I would love to do that.
Well, I
What
think,
was it about the museum? Was it just stuffy and you
yeah,
didn't feel like a
I had an internship at a museum, the Wadsworth Atheneum in Hartford, Connecticut, and I think I had this, I was young and idealistic, and I had this idea about working in the arts and it'd
Mhm.
be so creative and cool. And then it was just
Yeah,
corporate bureaucracy, but in a museum.
Mm,
And
yeah,
so I think
yeah.
and the hierarchy of, who was at the top and who was, too lowly to even talk to. I just was really turned off by the whole culture of the museum world, which
Mhm.
I think even though I was young and idealistic and stupid, I think there is something to that, though. I think museums actually are, I don't know if it's actually a lovely, warm place to work.
that's a fair assessment, I feel like. I feel like I've
Yeah.
seen a couple documentaries of the museum world and the art world, and it's like there is a I think it's especially in art specific museums, like
Yeah.
very there's a culture of like of I don't know toxicity and
Yeah.
like of politicalness and just like weirdness that I feel like a lot of those places have that would probably make it a not so great work environment, I imagine.
Mm.
Yeah.
When I think I was thinking of like a natural history museum, like
Sure,
a
yeah.
nice place. I want to be the night watchman and have everything come to life.
Yeah, well,
Maybe that's
and I
my
just wanted to be around
skewed
art.
understanding of museums.
Yeah, and I just thought it'd be
Yeah,
really cool to be around art, but I think it's a more corporate world than I think I realized when I was but I only worked in that one museum for 1 semester or something, so I don't even I don't actually know anything.
yeah.
I was
Well,
turned on.
no, maybe you dodged a bullet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well,
You found
Clark,
your
you do
true
remind me a
calling.
bit of, Ben Stiller at night at the museum now that I
Yeah,
think about it.
I've always thought of myself as a leading man.
Yes.
So thank you, Rocky. I
The Night
appreciate that.
Watchman. That would be
I'll take
that
it.
would be
I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's better than some of the, Paul. I gotten Paul Rudd before. I'd like Paul Rudd. Anyway, enough
I
about
love
my
Paul Rudd.
budding movie.
But yeah, I didn't, get intentional for a long time. I think, I was young, didn't have a lot of, responsibilities, so it was easy to just take whatever I came my way, and then I was married and had a kid, and so my career wasn't front and center
Mhm,
for a long time, and I even took a few years off, to be a mom, and it wasn't until, 20 end of 2018 when I realized I needed to get divorced that I realized I needed to get really serious about my business,
mhm.
and so I had to, yeah, rebuild from not a great place after taking some years off when my son was little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that process of like rebuilding, this career that you'd kind of put on hold a little bit, like to come back into it and to develop new clients and to
Yeah.
market and get yourself out there? I mean, that's a struggle for anyone.
Mhm.
I wonder, do you feel like it was more of a struggle after doing it once and going away from it for so long, or did you have a little bit of that knowledge kind of pre-existing that let you have a leg up on somebody maybe that was just starting out?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I had never done any marketing before, and I had always just taken whatever came to me. I never went out and got my work, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of word of
it was
mouth.
all word of mouth, but I was really lucky. I have a friend who's a coach who, hosted a goal setting workshop for friends in, it's January 2019, and I decided to go, and I never set a goal before. I'd never set a financial goal. It's a whole thing of, you can't fail a goal you don't set, and I think, just too afraid to
Mm,
ever set the goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to this workshop, and the instruction was to come up with an impossible goal. And
Mm.
so I wrote down a number and she was like, cross that out and make an even more impossible goal. And so I wrote down an even bigger number that truly felt absolutely impossible. But I was like, well, we'll just, follow the process and see what happens. And she gave us a really great framework for figuring out, thinking about who in your life is someone you think could accomplish this goal and what is it about them that you think they
Mm.
have that you don't have? What can you emulate about them?
mm,
She had a lot of prompts around those lines. And then we left that day with a list of 10 concrete steps to get us closer to our goal. And it was such a great
yeah,
exercise that
love
I've
that.
done over and over again because when you have a list like that and you go through first one, it doesn't pan out. It's fine. You've got another one there. And then, over time, you can
Mm,
add more things to your list. And it really worked for me. And by June of that year, so we started this in January, by June of that year, I realized I was going to make enough money that year that I could ask for the divorce that I knew I needed to do. Because I realized at the end of my marriage, I was like, am I just staying married because I want to keep my house and because I'm scared?
mm,
And so being able to, first of all, release all of that and be like, I could, if I need to, I'll move in with my parents. They have a basement. It's fine. But also, what can I
Yeah.
mhm,
make happen for myself was really exciting.
totally.
And
Mhm.
I did it. And so, yeah, I got divorced that year, or separated from my husband that year, and then got really it opened up this whole world of marketing for me too, and networking, and really trying to make something happen instead of having it all happen to me. Where I'd been just
Mhm.
letting my business happen to me, I learned that I could
Right.
make my business happen.
Yeah.
So that was
Get
the
your foot
beginning
in
of
Wow,
the
that's
that.
road. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
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 So I'm wondering, was that part of the motivation to your own experience with like trying to support yourself and going through that divorce and like figuring out how to live without that income? Is that one of the kind of motivations behind your work with female entrepreneurs and startups that are female
Yeah.
led? Like, is
Yeah.
that sort of the motivation, the
Absolutely.
genesis of it?
Absolutely. It definitely has to do with why I decided to do that, to go that way with my niche, but also The other thing that happened is I had a series of retainers that got me through my divorce and the pandemic, and I'm so grateful for them. But I had a retainer end at the end of 20 or beginning of 2023, and I was left entirely flat-footed because I'd been on retainers for the last 5 years. I hadn't, my network had sort of fallen apart. I wasn't,
Right.
I wasn't
Yeah.
doing as much
They're a double-edged
marketing.
sword. Yeah.
I got out of
They
the
are.
habit of the marketing.
Yeah.
And so I had a bunch of months without income that were pretty scary. And then I happened to see an ad on Instagram for this program for 1 to 2 person service businesses. It's this woman, Pia Silva, who has this program called No BS Agency Mastery. And I started listening to her podcast, and she talked about a different way of doing things. And Rocky and I talked about this a little bit last week, this idea of working in sprints. And so
Mm.
2 things happened with her program. So I ended up joining this program, the year-long program, to learn this process of working in sprints, but she also encouraged niching. And I had never intentionally niche. I had always mostly worked for women. I think that women just gravitate towards women. So I think that just sort of happened naturally. And I had a little bit of a maternity niche for a while from when I was pregnant. Um, but when she encouraged me to come up with a niche, I just thought back over my career and which projects I enjoyed the most and what felt the best. And it always has felt the best to work with other women and help other women elevate their businesses. And, since my divorce, I feel even more strongly that money equals freedom and power. And anything that I can do to help women raise their rates, get out there and sell with more confidence, that feels really good. And it doesn't feel as good, frankly, to do that for men. So they can do it on their own without me. So
No, but I mean, I think it's a valuable piece of advice and like a good thing that you're doing to like kind of raise that awareness that women can ask for those same things. Because I think for
Yeah.
us, us Rocky and other white male
yeah,
dudes out there, it's like we've always kind of aimed for like that's never been told that we can't raise our rates or like
Right.
ask
Right.
for more money and everything. And I think it's culturally been something that women haven't always been as taught that they can do. So I
yeah,
think that's really empowering for people to hear like, no, you should raise your rate. You should
yeah,
charge more for this. It's valuable.
yeah,
That's
Well,
great.
one of the things I love about that too is that you tend to think of like brand development, brand strategy, web design and stuff as like a creative pursuit, but really your work and working with other women is way more strategic than that. And it's more about
Mm,
providing them realizing what their true value
yeah,
is in the services they
yes,
provide. So I see that as like elevating it's like the branding and the website is one of the deliverables at the end, but it's not really the true value of what you're bringing to the table. And I find that to be like very powerful and something that you
yeah,
could certainly amplify and lean on even more.
yes, yeah. I
That's
talk about
wonderful.
selling confidence.
Yeah.
mhm.
That's really important to me. And I think so much of that is having a strong message that's clear so you can talk about your services clearly, consistently, and having that message, across all the platforms, whether it's, in a networking event, on your LinkedIn, on your website, and just having that message behind you, but then also having a great looking brand, like a great
Yeah.
outfit when you walk into a networking event where you can also just feel like, oh, this brand represents me both, visually, but also in terms of messaging. And it feels good. I feel proud of it. And it just is easier. The number of women who say to me, oh, I'm so embarrassed to share my website. A website's no good if you're too
Mm,
embarrassed to share it. So it's really important to
Yeah.
me that I'm providing women also with websites that they're really proud to share, that they're going to send to everyone and say, look how awesome I am. Look at me and all my expertise and authority with this fantastic brand with clear messaging. I mean, that's worth so
yeah.
much. It's so
It's
exciting.
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Look good, feel good.
Did,
Yeah.
did you have was there any fear in niching down and being super specific? What were your biggest worries about doing
Oh, I
that?
was terrified. I was terrified, and I tiptoed into it. I started out I did so I think the first step I took is I made my branding a little bit more feminine. I brought in some more pink. I brought in some things that, that I liked. But I still just had it was just on my bio. I said something like, Caitlin works primarily with women, just, hidden in my in my about page.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I did that first,
Yeah.
and I started talking about it a little bit, but it still wasn't on my website. And I
Right.
forget how long it took me. I think it took me maybe 2 months of, like, tiptoeing around it to then change my homepage, where now my homepage says I think it says oh gosh, I haven't looked at it in a while. Elevated branding for ambitious women, I think is what it says. And also
Hmm.
having a lot of conversations with friends around the word ambitious. and
Mhm.
how, because a lot of women feel very uncomfortable with that word, but also I was getting a lot of calls of women who weren't ready to really go for it, and I don't want to have a graveyard of gorgeous brands that aren't doing anything because women aren't promoting themselves. So I also want to work with women who are really going for it. And if
Mhm.
Mhm.
you're ready to go for it, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. But also if you're not ready, then I'm not necessarily the best partner for you. So I want to like really lean into that idea of ambition too, that I want to work with women who want it and who want to go for it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, it was scary. But it really, and I talk about this all the time because I work with a lot of I always encourage my clients to niche and they're always afraid. And
Mhm.
it feels
Mhm.
limiting, but for me, it's been incredibly expansive and it's made it, I mean, it's the cliche about how if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one, I think is true. If your
Right.
messaging
Right.
is speaking to someone specific, they're more likely to hear it and receive it and then want to work with you. And so it makes your messaging easier. And if you can be identified as the expert in a thing, people are going to want to work with you, which has been my experience. As soon as I niched, I hadn't worked in months, and then as soon as I niched, the referrals started flowing in. It was pretty wild.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible success story for the whole concept of niching, I
Yeah.
feel like, 'cause it's I know Rocky and I have when we work together more closely on projects, like, we always talked about, like, should we niche in a certain industry, a category, like, is this and I think that the fear for us and a fear for a lot of people is like that feeling like, well, I'm closing the door
Yeah.
on so many
Mhm.
opportunities and
Right.
projects. Like,
Right.
what if this isn't the industry or category I want to be in 6 years or five
Yeah.
years or whatever. So I think it's really incredible to hear your success with it and how it has only opened more
Yeah.
doors and like gained business, and you feel like that it hasn't, you know, locked you into something specific like that. And I think
Yeah.
I think that's you've also chosen
Mhm.
a particular niche too. And maybe this is the kind of lesson is like, I don't want to say don't choose like a specific category or something, but like finding something that you connect with that can cross those boundaries, I guess. Like you don't have to work with only female entrepreneurs that are starting
Mhm.
a fashion line
Right.
or something. It's
Right.
like you're not niching in that respect. You're niching
Right.
for the person. You're niching for the founder. I think that's like a really interesting lesson to take away from that. Like
Yeah.
that's a great concept.
And yeah, I just work with B2B service providers pretty much, but there's so much
Hmm.
diversity within that. I mean, just in the last few months, the last two brands I launched. So last week was a woman who has a org chart tool for HR people. One before that
Mm.
helps professional athletes figure out their philanthropic plans. One before that was
Wow.
a marketing director for
Yeah.
healthcare companies. One before that does customer experience success. I mean, they there's incredible diversity within B2B service
That's
providers.
amazing.
So it's not, I'm always learning about new industries that are so interesting. So it's certainly not boring. And I think I am becoming known as the person to go to for web design and brand strategy for women. And that feels really good.
Amazing.
And I've been on the other side of that where I often hire photographers. And if I'm going to, hire
Mhm.
photographers across the country. So if I'm looking for a photographer in another city, I'm going to look for that photographer who works with women. And so I've
Mhm.
hired, I don't know, 3 or 4 photographers now in other places because they specialize in brand photography for women. And that feels good
So
to
you're building
me
an yeah.
as the consumer of the thing.
Yeah. You build an
Yeah.
ecosystem around that. But what's nice about your niching down too is that you're pre-filtering your audience
Yeah.
in the beginning. So from a workflow standpoint for you and managing your business, one of the challenges with any creative agency is filtering through leads, requests that come in. Like, is this real? Is this like what do they need? Are we going to be a good fit? You're narrowing that down so much in at the top of the funnel that I would imagine it makes your process so much more, so much simpler
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's true. I think that's simpler. Also, just, I mean, the details of any sort of workflow is simpler because I'm not, I used to take on a lot of different packaging projects
Hmm.
or fashion brands blah blah that have so many different print requirements and I have to learn all the new dye lines and meet the new printers, and there's always such a steep learning curve with every new project. So also I'm so much more streamlined in my process and actually how I'm working day to day, where I'm just doing this one thing, branding and web design, including copywriting for women service
Mhm.
providers. And so I
Yeah.
know what that is. It's the same. It's while the details are different, the process is the same for each client. And that's part of how I can work in intensives in sprints because I have it all
Yeah.
dialed in.
Yeah.
Can you
And I guess that,
talk
I
a
mean,
little
go ahead, Rock.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just basing off what you were saying regarding the sprint
Yeah.
itself. Can you walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned it's a 2-week sprint
Yeah.
for most projects, correct?
Yeah. So I used to, for 20 whatever years, I did it the agency model, which is, you do a free proposal, you do this discovery call, then you
Mhm.
take a few weeks and come up with 3 options and
Yeah.
and then the client
Yeah.
gets to choose a combination of the options or some entirely new idea they have, and then months go by and, you say 3 rounds of revisions, but really ends up being 10 rounds of revisions and, lots of time spent hunting through emails being like, what did we talk about 2 weeks ago?"
I'm getting PTSD
I
right now.
know.
Just
My
I'm
life
getting
is
hot.
I
flashing
know.
before my
It's
eyes.
the worst, and it's the way that most people do it. It's the way I did it without even questioning it for years. W The different model that I learned that I love is I start every project with something I call the branding roadmap. It's a 90-minute interview, and so there's no free proposal. If you wanna work with me, I do a 15-minute call, and if you wanna work with me, you
Mhm.
sign up for a branding roadmap, and it costs $975. And it's a 90-minute interview, and we talk about where you've been, where you are now, where you want to go, your target audience, all your goals, your hopes and dreams. And I write a really comprehensive creative brief that includes messaging, includes a strategy for how to get you from point A to point B. It includes a full website sitemap, and a lot of the copy, honestly, that will go into the website later. It's a lot of but
Mm,
certainly all the thinking is done ahead of time so that
yeah.
if they can just take that document and run with it, or they can apply that 975 to a full branding package with me and I'll do the full brand. And then I take about a week and a half on my end where I'll design the full brand. And this is the part that's really scary is I design the whole brand, put together the whole website. Um, I don't do options. Every once in a while, I'll have a couple ideas for the hero of a homepage, but I don't do options. And I write all the copy. I start with the words, I write the copy first, and then build the brand. And I do design holistically. I'm not doing the logo first, getting approval on that, color palette, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing it all
Mhm.
together. I actually usually do the logo last because I think for service providers, the logo is the least important part of the thing. And then I have a whole process where over the course of an hour, usually, I walk them through, okay, this is what we talked about in the branding roadmap. Here's the inspiration sites that you shared with me that you like in terms of aesthetics or messaging. So these are all the things we've been thinking about. So now here is your brand. And this is why this is the perfect brand for you because these are the things we've already decided from the branding roadmap. Here's your inspiration. And now it just is obvious that
Mhm.
this is what your brand and website should be. And then it's
I
like,
mean, I feel like we're coming full circle. Like we're good. Like the confidence
yeah.
with that,
And so
I feel like is
Yeah.
I
what
present
sells.
it
Yeah.
live and it's so funny. I've done a lot of these intensives over 2 days with the client, but I just last week, but I sometimes will do over 3 days. It kind of depends on time zone stuff and how many deliverables they're going to be. Oh, and in the branding roadmap, I also figure out what are going to be the deliverables. And so instead of them
Mhm.
telling me, I need this, that, and the other thing, I say to them, because these are your goals, these are the deliverables that you need.
Here's what you need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, if they have I take feedback, but I, lay it out for them. And so anyway, what I was about to say is I used to do these often in 2 days. And I just realized last week that 3 days actually is just having that one extra day is so much more spacious and fabulous. So I'm going to switch to doing all 3 days all the time because it's fantastic. But anyway, I present the work the morning of the first day, get their feedback. And then over those 3 days, we fine tune. And then it all goes live at the end of the third day. And often there's a
Wow.
lot of other pieces. Often there's, a one pager marketing, small marketing materials, LinkedIn profile banners. But usually after that first meeting, there's just minor changes and it's just, words here or there. Maybe we switch out some photos. But because so much has been decided already in the branding roadmap, it's easy
Right.
to be like, this is what it should be with minimal revisions.
That's
It's
am-
like magic. It's
that's
every time
amazing.
I've done like
Yeah.
30 of them now and still every time it feels like magic.
Wow.
Well, speaking of having done 30 of these, I do wonder what is one or two of the like most common mistakes, with a brand, with a design, with a business that you've seen female entrepreneurs make, women-owned businesses make, that you often like identify within that first call with a, what are the things that you see most often?
I think the two most common service provider websites out there that I think are not doing people any favors are there's either um, a stock nature photo with a
Mm,
Mm,
lofty, sort of word salady headline that sounds good at first blush, but actually isn't saying
mhm.
anything. It isn't certainly isn't distinctive. So I think that's
Hey,
one.
helping us make a better tomorrow isn't saying anything, Caitlin, come
Exactly.
on.
tomorrow,
So we've
today.
all seen those, and therapists are the worst at this, but I actually give therapists a pass for some reason. I've just come to expect it. But and then the other thing that I think is really common is a big picture of the service provider. Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm an amazing designer. I do business cards. But so they just like a list of their services and how great they are instead of speaking directly to the client, what they need, showing empathy for their situation and showing how they can solve their problems. But
Hmm.
they put themselves front and center instead of putting the potential client front and center. So I think those are the biggest.
And not putting the problem they're solving
Yeah.
front and center.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't that doesn't relate to me as a client. It's like, I don't need to know who you are. I
Yeah.
need to know how you're going to solve my problem.
Yeah, I think people
Yeah, that's
often use their
interesting.
websites as a resume, and it should not be a resume. You should be
Mhm.
positioning yourself as it's under someone understanding your client's pain points and positioning yourself as a painkiller and not a band-aid, and no one cares
Hmm.
what school you went to or your all your credentials. That's not the important thing. It's, do you understand your potential client's problems? What can you do to solve them? How are they going to feel after working with you?
Mhm. That's interesting.
One,
I mean, I think even like resumes are dead.
Yeah,
Like, I think that applies
probably.
yeah,
across
yeah,
the board.
yeah.
Like,
I think that's true.
that's what I've heard recently with people applying for jobs is it's a well, now it's about the cover letter and making that cover letter into how am I going to solve your
Yeah.
problems,
Yeah, it's similar.
and really tailoring it. So I think it's similar to that in a lot of ways.
It is similar.
Caitlin, quick question, and this has been sort of an eternal conflict with designers for the last, for eons, I guess. Um, Transparent pricing. Do you publish
Mm,
your pricing or do you not publish your pricing? And I've always mentally gone back and forth in this, and I think there's certain use cases for each one. But was that a worry of yours in the beginning? Was to have this sort of transparent model
Yeah.
I
with
thought you were going
pricing
to
up
say
front?
ergonomic mouse or traditional mouse. I thought you were going
Oh no, definitely ergonomic.
rollerball mouse
I don't
Are
even
you
or
have a
kidding?
traditional
mouse.
mouse.
I have a, what do you call this thing? I have a stylus pad. I have a pad with a.
Mm,
Oh, yeah,
that's a
Yeah,
very
tablet.
ergonomic solution. I like
yeah.
that.
So
Sorry.
pricing, I have a minimum. I have my minimum on my website. So
Right,
I say
right.
really clearly that my smallest package is $10,000. And
Mhm.
not only do I say that, but when you book a call with me, you have to check a box that says either.
I understand.
'Cause I what Yeah, 'cause I don't want. I mean, I think it's important. You don't wanna waste the other person's time. I don't want people
No,
wasting my time.
exactly. 100%.
So, but
Yeah.
and I was having a thing happen where I was getting ghosted a lot on my, fit calls,
Mm,
and I had a theory that people were booking a call spontaneously, and then right before the call, going on my website, seeing that my minimum was 10,000 or whatever it was at the time, and then not showing because they realized I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
mhm.
And it was really, it really sucked to keep showing up to calls and
Really annoying.
have no one be
Yeah.
there. So
You're
I
wasting your
now have a
time. Yeah.
little checkbox. It says something like, "Are you ready to invest in yourself and your brand?" I understand, yes, and it's minimum 10,000, and the options are, yes, I'm excited to see if we're a great fit. Unsure, it's a bit of a stretch, but I'd love to learn more. And then no, and I say, then please sign up for my newsletter and let's
That's
keep in
smart.
touch.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
So you give them a path
Mhm.
at least if they're
Yeah.
not ready yet, you give them a path to stay in
Yeah.
touch with you. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah. But I think as a filtering device, if you do have a minimum, if you're not willing, because especially with all these, I don't even Fiverr and Upwork and all these services, you can get a
Mhm.
full brand and website for $200. And that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
not me. And so I need
Yeah.
people to understand that. Yeah.
I think that's something that took me a long time to learn as well. Yeah, you can get a million of those $2,000 jobs, $1,000 jobs, $500 logo jobs.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
those do come around a lot, but the amount of time and energy and everything you're pouring into
Yeah.
those, it's not less than you pour into a $10,000 job. That's for sure. It's not $8,000 less than you pour into a $10,000 job. So I
Yeah,
think that took
and the buyer of those services for $500 is already signaling to you that they don't think there's value
Right.
in the work you do, so they're not
yeah,
gonna be a good match anyway.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Talk
don't
about that.
yeah, because I don't do custom proposals, I have my 3 packages, and I'll stay and then I'll say on that first call, "This it's your we'll figure it out in the branding roadmap exactly what you need, but you're gonna fit in one of these 3 buckets," and, it's
Mhm.
simple.
I think there's such value in that and moving to that model for people because it is funny. We've treated design and creative strategy as this like, you know, kind of a la carte, this menu items, like
Yeah.
no one really knows what the true
Mhm.
value of it is. And
Yeah.
while every other industry has locked in pricing and like has a certain value they put on and there's varied pricing. Of course, you can go to one company and get a one price, and another company get a different price in a lot of different industries. But I've always thought like we just have never, in all my talks with different people that sell their creative services, it's like we've never really settled on like what is the value of this and what is the price of it
Right.
and everything. So I think having that
Mhm.
clear expectation and that idea of like this is the value that I put on it, this is the value I think that it brings to you, is probably where we should all be headed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think, for any creative pricing around time doesn't make sense because sometimes things just flow really easily and sometimes they don't, and often it's
Yeah.
arbitrary, often it's nothing to do with you or the client, it just is does it come easily that day or not? Or sometimes I'm also finding lately, because I keep trying to outdo myself, I'm often spending more time even as I'm getting more experience, I'm often spending more time, so I'm like, what can I do to push this to make it even better? And so I
Yeah.
don't like to price around time for that too, because like, if I wanna try another thing, I don't wanna charge necessarily
Yeah.
charge the client just because I have another idea, or I just one of the brand I launched last week, I had this idea for animation and spent all this time doing this whole animation. It was really cool. And then the morning that I was presenting, I was like, you know what? I actually think just a simple image is better. So I just scrapped the whole
Yeah.
thing, but I don't want to charge her
But
for it.
that's
Like
it.
that's
Yeah.
part of it is like figuring
Yeah,
that out.
yeah,
No.
And then
Exactly.
also,
You need to, yeah, push yourself for
yeah. And
sure.
I also don't like charging around, like a lot of designers will charge around like certain number of pages or copywriters will charge for a certain number of words. And I also just,
Mhm.
I want you to have whatever you need and whatever that is. So I have these small, medium, large packages, but the middle package is basically just within reason, whatever you need. And if in the middle of this, in the middle of the intensive, I realize, oh, I really want you to have a branded proposal. I'm just going to give you a branded proposal. I'm not going to charge you extra because
Mhm.
now I really want you
not
to
gonna
have
go
this
back
thing.
to that. Yeah, I'm not gonna have that
Yeah.
conversation again. I love that.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask
I it
Well,
permission.
reminds me of something. There's like a viral clip of Chris Do, the
Yeah.
host of the podcast of the future.
Huh.
Um, Great designer, great like business person, and he has this like this clip of him talking to designers and doing like a fictitious like logo design for somebody and talking about pricing with them
Hmm.
and he's all about like that kind of transparent pricing model and like not charging by the
Yeah.
hour because and he has the whole conversation with the person like okay so if I get it done faster then it gets to you faster that's valuable to you but I'm going to charge you less
Right.
shouldn't I charge you more for that like it's a whole weird like so I should just take the as long as possible and
Yeah.
then charge you more right
Right.
like that's the hourly charge process is not seems broken so I think that's again I'm on board Caitlin
Good.
yeah. Well,
this is I'm gonna champion this model as far and as wide as our little podcast can
I
push it.
love it. I can't
All tens of people that listen.
No, I love it, and I mean, when I first started listening to Pia Silva's podcast where she was talking about this, it clicked instantly for me, and I just immediately knew I had to do it, and when I got on the first sales call with her and, my and I just really was like, I'll give you all my money. Like, take all my money. I wanna learn this thing. Teach me." And my boyfriend thought I was crazy because I didn't know anyone else who'd done it. I didn't I just been listening to her podcast. I didn't really know, but it made sense. As soon as she started
Yeah.
talking about this model, I was like that I've been doing this for a long time. I know what I'm doing. I don't like.
Well,
And
and so you
Mhm.
realized you needed a
yeah,
system, right? Like
Mm.
and that's one of the things I think with a lot of the creative pursuits here is that you feel like it's this very organic thing that happens that you're able just to create a logo. Yeah, we'll do that. It'll,
Yeah.
take some time
yeah,
to do, but it was very loosey goosey. But once you put a framework around the work,
yeah,
then you're able to really concentrate and systemize all of these different things. And I think, yeah, obviously your technology stack, what you produce your
hmm,
websites in, how you do your logos
yeah,
and stuff, that's all part of that as well. It's kind of on the back
yeah,
end that client doesn't really get to know what happens,
right.
how the sausage is made, so to speak. So I think that's really smart. And I think there's probably a lot of resistance from creatives to go that route because they might feel like they're gonna miss out on some other opportunity. And it's,
Mhm.
because they're super concentrated on this workflow.
Yeah, but yeah. I have no regrets. It's only been great for me.
Well,
Amazing.
Caitlin, we could talk about this for days. This is
Well,
awesome. I
I
think
wanna ask before
super.
we get into our rapid fire, Rocky, I
Okay,
have
go
one
ahead,
more
Clark.
question for Caitlin. Before we get into it, because I do wanna I wrote this question down, and I'm determined to get it in
Okay.
here. Because as two, as Rocky and I are two white dudes that really can't I relate to what the process is, what the world is like for a female entrepreneur, a female startup founder, what have you. Um, but as fathers, we're both fathers of
Oh,
girls. And so I
yes.
do wonder, like, what is the advice that we should give our daughters who want to start a business, who want to get into a B2B platform or like start something of their own? Like, what is the best advice that you would give them?
I think don't sell yourself short and just know
Mm,
you can fucking do it. One of the things that I run into a lot is women who also are just so afraid to say that they're really good at something and just to
Mhm.
have that confidence to say, no, I know what I'm talking about. I had a call just yesterday with a woman who got on the call saying, I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't know how to I have all these ideas, but I don't know how to put it together. And then it came out and I was like, I don't think I can. We went through this whole thing and I was like, I don't think you're ready to work with me yet. But I referred her to some people. And then it came out that she actually has this whole coaching business and she has 2 published books. And I just was like, oh my God, wait, you have a business, you have these books.
yeah.
I can absolutely create a platform for you to sell these services. But she came in with so little confidence and it
Wow,
just, it happens all the time. So I think, um, women just need to know that they're fucking badasses and they can do it and that it
I
is
love it.
hard but that we can do hard things and that's where the real magic happens.
Sure. Ambition,
That's
grit,
great.
Yeah,
determination,
yeah,
confidence.
yeah. And ambition is
I like
not
that.
a dirty word. That ambition is exciting and that's how you make things happen is wanting it and going for it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
before we get
Rocky.
into the rapid fire questions here, I think this has
Now
been
you're
a
pulling a
very
Clark.
inspirational,
Okay.
very inspirational call. So we're gonna have so much content from this episode that I'm looking forward to
Mm.
It was
sharing
so
because I think it's
fun.
gonna
It's
be
really fun.
very valuable. All right, we have some fun rapid fire
Okay.
questions here. I'm gonna go rattle off the first two. Clark's gonna take the last two. All
Wait,
right.
I'm supposed to
Couldn't live with
like with a quick just like a quick
as
short
quick as
thing.
you want or
Who
as long as you want.
knows? As quick as you
Clark,
want.
Okay.
Clark went with the deadline, not me.
Okay.
All right. Couldn't live without Adobe, Figma, or Canva.
Adobe.
All
Old
right.
school.
A movie you could watch on repeat.
Gosh, I love all the old rom-coms, like When Harry Met Sally and Say Anything is a favorite. 90s.
Those are classics.
Yeah.
Great
All right.
picks.
You got to cut one of these and you got to save one in the design world, in the creative world.
Mhm.
We're not going to use the other one anymore. UX or UI?
Oh gosh. Cut one?
Cut one. We're going to stop saying it.
Um, UI. I don't know if that's arbitrary. I don't know. I don't have a strong
I'll take
feeling
it.
about that one.
That's fair. I always
Well, we
wonder.
use them together. We do use those two
You
No.
know,
together.
there's
I feel
crossover.
like
There's reasons to say one or the
I feel
other.
like
I just get annoyed because
yeah.
sometimes there's
I
people
I
don't
like the
understand
one
the difference.
cut or save would be make it pop or make it whimsy.
Mm,
Oh, I
Both.
please can I never
who
hear
says
Make It
make it
Pop?
whimsy?
No to
Make it
Make It
pop is a
Pop.
good one. I have to confess sometimes I have said that to people.
Gosh, no.
I want it to pop more.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Bad.
Since we have already established we're going to cuss on this episode, I'm going to change this last one. It was F, Marry, Kill, but I'm just going to say fuck, Marry, Kill.
Sorry, I have a potty
WordPress,
mouth.
Squarespace, or Wix.
Wait, what was it?
I don't know. It's WordPress, Squarespace, and Wix. You have to marry one, kill one, fuck the other.
Kill Wix. Marry Squarespace. Oh wait. Well, all I'm certain about is for sure kill Wix. I hate Wix.
Really? Okay.
I hate it. I hate it.
Okay.
Hate it. I mean, I use Squarespace and I fucking love it. Does that mean I'm fucking it, or am I? Because WordPress.
I think you have to marry the one you love.
I think you have to marry the one. Yeah.
WordPress has its charms. I just don't use it. So so fuck WordPress. Marry Squarespace. That's
love it
for sure. I hate Wix.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've never used Wix. I've only had people send me Wix stuff that they need fixed. I'm like, it's a fix Wix.
No, that's
usually
the only way that I've encountered it also. And when I'm in that back end, I don't know what's happening and I hate it.
This is
okay.
nonsense.
Well, that makes me feel better because I always thought I just couldn't wrap my head around Wix, but maybe it's just because it sucks.
We didn't throw Webflow into there either.
I don't know Webflow.
I know.
I've never used Webflow.
Webflow is not as widely used, but it's a very, I think it's like the better Wix. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
True.
Not a sponsor.
True. Not a sponsor. Not yet. Gotta think big.
I love
Gotta
it.
be ambitious.
If you want.
Squarespace, and
if you hear it.
Squarespace has all these new things coming out. I'm really excited about. I love Squarespace.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like they're really building their ecosystem up, which is great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Caitlin. This was a lot of fun.
So fun.
And that's
really
a wrap
fun.
for this episode of the Somewhat Creative Show.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the episode,
thank you for having me.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Sorry, we always have to do our stupid little outro, and we never know, like, how are we supposed to say goodbye and then do our outro, or do we say the goodbye as part of the outro? It's a very confused podcast.
It is.
Not
We
as
stumble
it.
We stumble it every time.
We stumble through these episodes every single time, but
it was so fun.
What are you going to do?
You're late, Clark.
I know. I got to run. But huge thanks to Caitlin Lang, and always
stay curious.
Rocky.
Stay creative.
I tossed
Man,
it right
our
to
timing sucks today.
Dang it.
We'll see you next time, people.
Friday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.